My
Lots of
goodness,
lovely
there's a
familiar
lot of
faces.
you. Look at you all.
Hello.
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 Hello, everyone. It's great to
Hello.
see so many of you
Hello.
here. I keep having to
There.
admit, and it's hard to keep up, actually.
Not impressive at all. Woo! Arriving everybody at the same time. Yay.
Oh, it's all these wonderful names of women in the book. Just like to welcome all of you here tonight. The recording is on, and the recording will continue for 1 hour. I'd like to begin with an acknowledgement of country for this wonderful launch of I Wish I Was a Lesbian. We respectfully acknowledge the wisdom of Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander peoples and their custodianship of the lands and waterways. The countries on which Spinifex offices are situated are Jiru, Bunurong and Wurundjeri, Warrawurrung, Gundungurra and Noongar. We also acknowledge the many women throughout history who have fought for women's freedom and the freedom of lesbians, often at the cost of their lives or their freedom. Just a few notes on housekeeping. Please keep muted while the launch is happening. This launch is recorded and the recording runs for 1 hour. Please use the chat, and I'll begin by introducing Bronwyn Winter, who will be launching I Wish I Was a Lesbian tonight, edited by Angela Wild. And after Bronwyn has spoken, I'll then introduce Angela. And of course, this is I Wish I Was a Lesbian book. Bronwyn Winter is Professor Emerita of Transnational Studies, University of Sydney. She has also been a radical lesbian feminist activist for some 5 decades in Australia, France, and the UK, and transnationally, and is currently national co-convener of Australian Feminists for Women's Rights, AFORWA. She is also involved in organising panels for Philia women's liberation conferences in the UK. Her publications include September 11, 2001, Feminist Perspectives, that's co-edited with me, published in 2002 by Spinifex. It was the first transnational feminist anthology on 9/11 and the aftermath. The only other one to be published was published in India. She's also the author of Hijab and the Republic and Uncovering the French headscarf debate, and Women, Insecurity and Violence in a Post 9/11 World, and also The Political Economy of Same-Sex Marriage, a feminist critique a feminist critique that was Routledge in 2021. She now publishes independently on her Substack, and do please have a read of it. It's very good, and writes the occasional villanelle for the new lesbian literary magazine, Villanelle. Oh, I must look it up. What fun. Anyway, so Bronwyn, handing over to you.
Okay, villanelles are dead hard to write, I can tell you, but
They
they've
are.
been fun. Okay, so thank you for inviting me to launch this book. I'm very pleased to do so. I'm going to start with a little anecdote. I'm going to take you back to the 1970s, the halcyon days. And there was a feminist theatre group in Sydney called Woman Action Theatre, and which I had some contact with when I was a little baby dyke in the sort of late 70s, and I was asked to help choreograph something or other. And many, many years later, a lesbian pal and I caught up, and we talked about Woman Action Theatre because she'd been part of it and other women I knew had been part of it. And she said, do you know, when we all joined Woman Action Theatre, every single one of us was straight. Some married, kids, the whole shebang. And when Woman Action Theatre broke up, guess what? Every single one of us was a lesbian. And that's not uncommon. And it sort of reminds me of the US televangelist Pat Robertson, who in the 1990s said that feminism encourages women to leave their husbands, kill their children, practice witchcraft, destroy capitalism, and become lesbians. Well, yeah, if one interprets the killing children bit to be aborting fetuses, which is what Robertson meant. What for Pat Robertson was feminist dystopia was, of course, for many of us, a logical consequence of feminism, as it was for women of woman action theatre. Or to put it another way, as lesbian singer-songwriter Alex Dobkin did in 1973, any woman can be a lesbian. That idea that lesbianism is political and as such is arguably the most revolutionary expression of our feminism is at the core of this anthology. In the lead up to this launch, I have seen the most extraordinary comments on social media by women who would all describe themselves as gender critical and many also as feminist, in response to the very idea of the book and most particularly to two aspects. Its critiques of the ideology of compulsory heterosexuality and the idea that lesbianism is not innate but chosen. In the first case, a number of women who presumably see themselves as irrevocably heterosexual object to the idea of heterosexuality being compulsory, claiming that it is natural and apart from anything else about reproduction and thus survival of the species, don't you know? One of these women even claimed, wait for it, that women, quote, fiddling with another woman's sexual organs is sick, unquote. Apparently a bloke fiddling with you or you with him is fine. This immediately led me to create on the spot the Sick Fiddlers Liberation Front, acronym SIFLIF. I'm hoping it'll catch on, but you never know. The other pushback, the Born This Way narrative, comes mainly, albeit not exclusively, from lesbians. One comment I saw was based on a spectacularly false syllogism. It was claimed that the idea of lesbianism was chosen was lesbophobic because it was on the same plane as males claiming to choose to be women. Untangle that if you will. There were also a number of comments pointing to apparent scientific proof of the innateness of sexual partnering choices. Yet other comments posited that if you can choose to be lesbian, you can also choose to be heterosexual, and that could lead to justifications of gay conversion therapy. A number of chapters in the book address these concerns and do so with reference precisely to the ideology of compulsory heterosexuality. Many of them also trace the political history of the Born This Way concept and discuss the reasons for its reappearance in recent decades. One might be tempted to laugh off some of these objections, dismissing them as reactionary or devoid of any sort of feminist analysis, and some of them no doubt are. The sick fiddling comment is the runaway winner there. But not all. Many come from women with what one might call feminist street cred, and from a place of intimate conviction. It is clear that the idea of compulsory heterosexuality is arcane to many, which demonstrates for the zillionth time the truth of Christine Delphi's comment made in 1999. We are condemned to keep repeating ourselves. She was surely not the only one to have said that, but that's the one that sticks in my mind. We are condemned to do so not only because people forget, but because this forgetting is orchestrated. Our own history is hidden from us, and the revolutionary feminist and lesbian ideas of not even 50 years ago have been disappeared from our political vocabulary. We have to keep starting again, learning again, connecting with each other again, debating again our choices and preferences and ideas about what a lesbian is and what a lesbian does and why she is and does. Pretty much all of the chapters in this book, whether by women of the so-called second wave or younger women, speak to this precise issue, uncovering that feminist consciousness and the language to express it from which they had been kept in ignorance. Pretty much all the chapters tell their politics through personal history, although two of the contributions are collective, Red Femme Collectif Berlin and the Lesbian Caucus of Women's Declaration International USA. The latter piece presents a particularly thorough analysis of what is problematic about the Born This Way doctrine. In particular, the authors argue that it is a male supremacist divide and conquer strategy, creating distrust among lesbians and weakening our movement. It is also, as Angela points out in her introduction, stems from biological essentialism, the idea of nature, of which we should, as feminists, always remain very wary. The WDI women conclude that ultimately, however an individual lesbian conceptualizes her lesbianism or her pathway towards it does not or should not matter. None of the chapters, in fact, is at all judgy. Every contributor knows, through having experienced it herself, how long and difficult the road she has travelled, continues to travel, has been. The authors tell of how easily we internalize male supremacist logic and turn it against ourselves and each other when we find ourselves, to use contributor Charlie May's delightful expression, girling incorrectly. For younger lesbians like Charlie, that rocky road has also included the pressure to transition, and a number of chapters by both older and younger women tell of the toll gender identitarianism has taken on our lives and on our communities. As Charlie puts it, when the definitions of woman and man are blurred, how can we see our oppressor? How can we describe what is happening to us accurately? And if we cannot see it and we cannot speak it, we cannot action change against it. Or to put it another way, as Judy Grahn wrote in her 1971 poem, The History of Lesbianism, the subject of lesbianism is very ordinary. It's the question of male domination that makes everybody angry. And it is that question that lies at the core of this anthology and underpins the idea of political lesbianism as it is presented by the contributors. Personally, I prefer the term radical lesbian to political lesbian, but that may be a French Quebecois thing, although there are some nuances in meanings and history of the terms that I don't have the time to tease out here, so moving on. The idea of political lesbianism, or its Francophone radical equivalent, is about refusing the ideology and practices of compulsory heterosexuality, about centering women, withdrawing energy from men, ceasing to settle for interactions and relationships that range from the deadly boring to the deadly abusive, and moving towards more interesting fiddlings. As my dear friend Beth Tinning commented in response to this awful sick fiddler's social media post, poor love doesn't understand the pleasure fiddling around can give, and the happiness and the delight. And with the world the way it is, I say we need all the pleasure, happiness, and delight we can get. Indeed. Not all contributions, mind you, attach the same degree of importance to such delightful fiddlings, although personally I find it difficult to conceptualize the meaning of the word lesbian without them. They all, however, stress the political importance of their personal choices to live as lesbians and the joy of recognition those choices bring. The 33 contributions, if I have counted correctly, to this book by 31 different women, again, if I have counted correctly, originate in various parts of the world, including Russia, Siberia, Georgia, Korea, Mexico, Spain, France, Germany, and the Western Anglosphere. They include a few artworks and poems or excerpts from poems. The authors and artists are women in their 20s and in their 70s, maybe 80s, and everywhere in between. Some of them are very well known, virtual daikons in our lesbian feminist universe. Others may never have written for an anthology or in English or English translation before, and this is our first encounter with them as readers. They have often vastly different class and ethno-racial backgrounds, including rural versus urban, something that is often overlooked when we speak of class. They are bloggers, essayists, artists, poets, novelists, researchers, and more, and all activists in their own way, and all survivors. Many of the stories tell of the most appalling male violence, whether through rape and other forms of assault, physical and psychological, or through the violence against self of the ideology inculcated into us that we spend lifetimes undoing. Because often, like the bars in the cage analogy used by Marilyn Fry in her essay Oppression, which I believe one of the contribution references, we do not see how those individual bars come together to form the cage, and that we are imprisoned within it. That is how internalized oppression works. To cite Elizabeth Vigo, whose contribution takes poetic form, she says it very well. For so long, I saw myself through the eyes of men, filtered through their contempt. But when I looked at myself through the eyes of women, who had chosen themselves and each other, who had built lives where men were inconsequential in their words and art, in their analysis and vision, for the very first time, I could see myself, not as something to be consumed, but as someone who belonged to herself. You can choose too. If these words sound strange, let them rest like seeds in the dark. And the last contribution actually talks of lucid darkness. Truth takes root in its own time. We'll be here waiting for you. I do not agree with every single word every single contributor has written, and there are many aspects we could debate, such as the meaning we give to the term sexuality, the value or otherwise of using the term sexual orientation, whether same-sex marriage is a good thing or not. We've been debating that for how many decades now? And the degree of importance one should give to fiddling. However, these 30-odd lesbian cats that Angela has managed to herd together transnationally do agree on the core principles of political lesbianism that she has outlined in her terrific introduction. Introductions to anthologies that present such diversity are tricky to write, and nowhere more so than when the topic is politically both sensitive and apparently controversial. This introduction pulls together the multiple threads of the arguments and experiences presented in this book and gives them resonance. It is truly a joy to read. In these times that I have previously characterized as the age of absurdity, we need as many women as possible to make feminist sense. And in these times of stultifying stupidity, when men engaged in pissing contests with each other and resentful of women's independence wreak havoc on our world and on our lives, we need as many women as possible to unleash our feminist and lesbian imaginations. As Lynn Alderson writes in her chapter, you cannot be what you cannot imagine. And as Monique Wittig wrote in her extraordinary novel Les Guerrières, cited as an opening epigraph to the book, we must make an effort to remember all that has been erased, or failing that, invent. I finish on Angela's words and the raison d'être of this book. To all the women who have ever written in despair, I wish I was a lesbian, but I can't be one, this book is for you. You cannot be what you cannot imagine. Angela, contributors, congratulations, félicitations. Over to you.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Bronwyn. It's a delight to have your fabulous launch speech. Now I'd like to introduce you to Angela, who probably needs no introduction in a way, but here it is. And this is from the front of the book, her biography. Angela C. Wilde is a political artist, lesbian, feminist activist, and writer, an unapologetic radical feminist. Her work is dedicated to promoting uncompromising lesbian visibility, building lesbian culture, defending women-only spaces, and dismantling patriarchal institutions such as compulsory heterosexuality, compulsory motherhood, sexual violence, and pornography. She is a committed direct action activist and has co-organized some of the most visible campaigns for lesbian rights in recent decades. A founding member of the grassroots lesbian group Get the L Out UK, an absolutely great idea. She authored Lesbians at Ground Zero, the first research on the cotton ceiling, and founded Wild Women Workshop, a radical feminist shop for activists. And I first met Angela on a panel at Philia on lesbians. So it was a great delight to be on that with you. And even more delightful to be here tonight, to have you here tonight for the launch of your book.
Thank you so much. So thanks, Bronwyn, for that lovely introduction. That brought me almost to tears, but not quite. I want to also say you're the only person in the world who pronounces my name the French way. So that was funny. I want to thank, of course, Renate and Susan for giving me the opportunity to bring this work to the world. I really feel very privileged to have been able to do that. And to the wonderful team at Spinifex and each contributor, and I see quite a lot of you in the chat, in the videos. So I have about 15 minutes to talk to you about this project. There's a lot I want to say, of course. And at the core, really, the book challenges a widely accepted mainstream idea that sexual orientation is innate and immutable. And as you're aware, and Bronwyn reminded us, that this is not a position that everybody agrees with. Some people find it controversial, some people find it hateful. And this is really precisely why I thought a book like that is needed, because feminism is called controversial and hateful. And as Andrea Dworkin once said, what is affirmed without being questioned is not known. It is ideology, not truth. And so really, beyond the agreement or disagreement that we may have, my aim with the book was to inspire curiosity. I hope women, both here and beyond, will approach this book with an open mind and make up their mind on the topic in the peace and quiet of their own reading time. That means out of the social media toxic noise, please. This book comes with two starting points. The first was a question that always puzzled me. Why are we not, as feminists, as a feminist movement nowadays, applying our considerable collective critical thinking skills to this aspect of patriarchy that affects us in the most intimate way, sexuality? And why such resistance to those who bring this analysis and have brought this analysis? So, as you said, this book approaches sexuality as political. Its explicit aim is to repoliticize sexuality, and the timing matters. We are living through a significant shift, I think. Consider this, by 2030, 35% of women are predicted to be single and child-free. And if you understand sexuality politically, we cannot fail to see that this is a historical moment. One that can not only challenge the centrality of heterosexuality in women's lives, but also how this shapes and controls us as a group. And at the same time, many women are searching for an alternative, often in the dark, which brings me to my second point. For a few years now, I've been seeing on social media the same sentence in the comment section from women, almost like a plea. I wish I was a lesbian. They say that heterosexuality doesn't work for them, they leave, and then they say this. And implicit in this is the internalized belief that sexual orientation is innate, fixed, and this belief can hold women back from exploring alternatives that they might otherwise consider. So as someone who has gone through that journey from heterosexuality to lesbianism, this question called for an answer. I was very frustrated to read it. And this book offers an answer, and it says to women, yes, you can become a lesbian. And so the book is aimed at any woman, as in any woman can be a lesbian, any woman, particularly women who consider themselves straight but feel curious about why or how patriarchy may have shaped them or confined them within a heterosexual relationship. For women who want a deeper understanding of women's oppression and how compulsory heterosexuality operates, and for lesbians who may want to reflect critically on this idea of being born this way. And of course, to all of the women thinking, I wish I was a lesbian and I can't. So as I started the project, my initial belief was simple. If an idea is good, and I believe that political lesbianism is a very good idea, this idea will resonate with women everywhere, across ages, across background, class, or life experiences. And the result of my research is a patchwork of personal stories, of theory, of political thoughts, poetry, and art. It's conceived as an intersectional project in the feminist sense of the word, of course. It brings together women from 15 countries, spanning cities and rural villages, from their 20s to their 70s, and a wide range of cultural and social contexts with life experiences as varied as their path to lesbianism. And together, they respond to that statement, I wish I was a lesbian, but I can't. So, Bronwyn, you talked a lot about the Born This Way and a critique about this. And I want to explore the themes of the book a little bit beyond that, because I want to show how rich really it is, what women are talking about. So I'll be jumping from one theme to another. And the first thing I want to say is political lesbians, or lesbian feminists, radical lesbians, let's say, are often dismissed as an old-fashioned relic of the second wave. And here I really want to express my gratitude to the women of that era, particularly those who contributed to the book: Sheila Jeffries, Julie Bindel, Lynn Alderson, Lauren Levy, Anne Menashe, Renate Klein, Susan Hawthorne. I want to say that they deserve genuine praise for publicly holding their position for so long, despite relentless attack. And their accounts recall a time where lesbian feminism flourished, when women choosing lesbianism was not controversial, but a part of a shared collective vision of liberation. they remind us that another way for our movement is possible, that we can think beyond heterosexuality. So patriarchy through the book is understood as a structuring, heterosexuality is understood as a structuring force in women's lives. And that theme runs through the book, particularly in Chris Walker or Renate Klein's story. They describe how their previous heterosexual marriage revealed the way men and heterosexual institutions restrict women's lives, reducing us to wives or secondary actors, sometimes in our own eyes. I think it's the topic which is completely over time because the triad wife ideology copied and pasted from the 50s, making a big return. And in her piece, Yağmur Ugarkuzu contribution, she shows that this framing continues to shape the thinking of younger women today, including in the feminist movement. So many contributors to this anthology are under 30, the youngest being just 21. And their work bring political lesbianism into a contemporary light and demonstrate its continued relevance against the oppression young women face today. So realizing their attraction to women, 2 young lesbians were initially tempted to identify as men. In Charlie May's account, the role of trans ideology as a strategy enforcing compulsory heterosexuality is explicit. The sexual coercion of lesbians through the cotton ceiling by men who call themselves lesbians, the social pressure to identify as bisexual instead of lesbian, the internalized hatred of one's female body that we nowadays call dysphoria, the traumatic dissociating process of transition are all seen as strategies designed to gaslight women into believing they should include men in their sexual lives no matter what. So trans ideology through some of the pieces is seen as a new patriarchal assault on women's rights, but also against lesbians' existence. There's a clear link in several chapters between the imposition of heterosexuality on one hand and the imposition of femininity through dress code, makeup, or behavior. And in that context, choosing lesbianism has allowed some of these women to assert themselves as full human beings while rejecting sexist stereotypes and objectification. The damaging impact of heterosexuality emerges in reflection on celebrity culture, where even famous women are diminished or harmed within their heterosexual relationship. The book also engages with the impact of visual culture, pornography, and the media, and looking at how they reinforce compulsory heterosexuality while negatively influencing young lesbians' understanding of lesbianism. For example, lesbianism as a porn category. Women in this anthology came to lesbianism in different stages of life, some very, very young, while others are late bloomers. And for many, the journey was not linear. Coming out early, succumbing to compulsory heterosexuality after enduring intense anti-lesbian bullying, harassment, or violent family rejection, only to return later, but with a feminist consciousness. This is not an uncommon path. And this trajectory are analyzed also in Al-Menash's piece. The book demonstrates how the core ideas of political lesbianism function across class and racial structures. For example, working class women have developed very pragmatic reason for adopting political lesbianism as a positive strategy for survival under patriarchy. Jessica Gonzalez explained how women living together as couple or collective could provide a solution to the financial hardship women face under patriarchy. And the Mexican lesbo feminist movement, described by Daniela Medina and also represented by Tabata Spinster and Kenya Salas, was developed independently from the Western lesbian feminist as an intersectional lesbian feminist theory inherently rooted in anti-racism, anti-classism, anti-capitalism, and anti-colonialism. This is as far removed as possible from any idea of single-issue feminism, and it's fundamentally woman-centered, and it encompasses all the oppression women face. As we know, political lesbians are frequently placed in opposition to, and a massive quote, real lesbians, patriarchy, particularly gold star lesbians, so lesbians who have never had relationship with men. And in this framework, a real lesbian, quote, could not possibly agree with a lesbian feminist theory or believe that women can choose lesbianism. As we see in this book, this is not the case. The several lifelong lesbian contributors, despite having minimal or no experience of heterosexuality, that conclude that developing a political understanding of heterosexuality and lesbianism has enriched their lives and their feminism Anne Helrich and Alima highlight the many dimensions of lesbian life beyond sexuality, particularly the capacity to connect with women on multiple levels. And along the same line, Sheila Jeffrey rejects the idea that lesbianism should be defined solely as sexual behavior. She argued that such a framing is patriarchal, reinstating early sexological policing of who counts as a lesbian and who doesn't, and that she explained is a strategy designed to limit our numbers, restrict women's ability to disengage from heterosexuality, and also weakens feminism. Contributors explore lesbianism as a reconnection with the self, a realization that women can exist as a whole self-defined beings. Most contributors describe how their lives and often their mental health improved dramatically once they realized they could positively embrace lesbianism through choice rather than as a negative, deviant identity imposed by patriarchy. The anthology addresses suicidal despair and alienation as a logical outcome of a system that erases women's consciousness and denies lesbian possibility. We hear about sexual trauma, male violence, and emphasize that emotional, political, and social liberation comes from women supporting one another, not from men. For many, lesbian feminism is seen as the only framework that makes sense, explaining the oppressive forces shaping women's lives while also suggesting a positive alternative that even radical feminism, with its focus on male violence, itself doesn't offer. Political lesbians are often caricatured as bitter old women who reject men supposedly without any real desire or love for women. And while rejecting men is necessary to allow our love for women to blossom, passion and desire for women shine through the contribution in this book. Many contributions explore themes around relearning our bodies, sexual fulfillment, clitoral knowledge, rejection of the male gaze, the development of new aesthetic and ways of relating to one another. The importance of the collective in enabling such shift is recurring through the book. For example, the opportunity of collecting living, as in the London squatting scene, or women-only gathering, as in Mitchfest, and remain crucial for the building of the second wave radical thinking, and often pivotal for women who experience them. Lesbian communities and women-only spaces are celebrated as collective spaces of political self-realization, and political lesbianism itself as a space for women's creativity and liberation. And indeed, the shift to political lesbianism has enabled life choices and creative potential that many of the women could never have imagined had they remained in heterosexuality. So to conclude, I'll say that the contributors demonstrate that political lesbianism is very far from obsolete. On the contrary, contemporary political lesbianism remains vibrant, pertinent, fiercely radical, and its revolutionary potential has not diminished, as we can see in its capacity to inspire new generations of feminists. It continues to challenge patriarchal structure and compulsory heterosexuality and imagine alternative ways for women to live, love, and organize collectively. So I'd like to say that ultimately this book is not about telling women what to do. Rather, it's an invitation to think beyond what we've been told never to question. It's about recognizing that something we are told is purely personal, sexuality, is also deeply political, and that requires a political response. It's about responding to that quiet but persistent sentence, I wish I was a lesbian, but I can't. And the book gathers voices that respond. You can question, you can think, in fact, you should, and of course you can choose. And that possibility itself is political and revolutionary. Thank you.
Thank you very, very much, Angela. It's really fantastic to hear you speak. I would just like to ask, we have about 15 minutes if anybody wants to say anything. It would be better if you go to the react thing down the bottom and raise your hand. I'll be able to see you at the top of the list, and then you'll be able to speak. And I hope that some of you will, not just contributors, but readers and, whatever. Okay, over to you. Anybody want to speak? Please raise your hand.
But Alima has her hand raised.
Yeah, she has. Okay, Alima, turn your,
Yes.
there you go. Thank you.
Yeah. Hi everyone. My name is Alima, and I'm one of contributors of this book. And I want to say one thing. I'm this person who was, who used to be a born this way lesbian. And it was really important for me to take a part of this project because I remember how it to feel to know about political lesbianism when you are just born this way lesbian. I would like to show another born this lesbians that political lesbianism it's not dangerous for all lesbians. It can help all of us because I mean I understand born this way lesbians why they afraid, why they so angry to us because uh, they believed what their natural orientation just protect them from men. It's not true, of course. Men, they don't care who you are. I mean, political or born this way, but um, born this way ideas just support the status quo. So I just want to say, all lesbians, political, born this way, what we on one side, and also women who who believes they can be lesbian. They also one of us, and we should not afraid them and afraid each other. Yeah, something like that. Thanks.
Thank you very much, Alima. That is wonderful to hear you speak and to meet you, even though it's not in real life, but it's great to meet you.
Thanks.
And Angela, do you want to say anything in response? And if not, we'll go to Chris.
No, I agree.
You agree? Okay, then over to Chris. Unmute yourself.
Yeah. Hi, everyone. This is Chris. I am also a contributor to this amazing book. I am also one of these women, like Bronwyn said, that have never written before in an anthology or in any other book for that matter. I translate a lot of amazing radical lesbian texts, but I don't write my own. So this has been a great honor to me. My article is both personal and political. I tell my own story whilst paying tribute to all the women who have carried and helped me get to where I am today, my lesbian existence. I have read so far more than half of the wonderful articles in the book, and I can only say one thing: read it. You won't regret it. This morning, I woke up with a text from a dear friend with the best of the feedbacks. She said, "I have almost finished the book. I would have inhaled the whole thing as soon as I got it. But I have all these other things going on at the moment. I absolutely love it though. Life-changing book for me and a heart." Yesterday, I read Anne Menashe's article, and I would end with one of her sentences. I quote, "I was born female. That's all the physical attributes one needs to be a lesbian. Nothing more." Thank you.
Fantastic. Michelle, over to you now. Thank you so much, Chris.
Hi, so my name's Michelle. I'm also a contributor to the book, and I wish that I could have had access to this book 10, 15, 20 years ago. My chapter is called A Return to Lesbianism. This time it's political. My journey to lesbian has been far from linear. I first came out when I was 19. Sometime in my 20s, as a result of lesbophobic bullying and compulsory sexuality, I went back to a heteronormative lifestyle, and it was a terrible, terrible time in my life. I eventually made my way from Live Femme through to radical feminism and found lesbian feminists and women I never even knew existed, like the women in this book. And this is why I wish I could have read it back then, because then maybe I wouldn't have lost the lesbian label. Finding lesbian feminism made me question whether I could claim that label again. Could I step away from compet, and what would that even look like? And it turns out it's fucking brilliant. Building on what Angela said earlier, I also believe that these are the questions every woman deserves the time and space to be able to answer. And questioning heterosexuality is at its root. It's a foundational part of radical feminism, and it's not about questioning. It's about questioning something most of us would never even thought could be a question. That's all.
Thank you. Thanks a lot, Michelle. Lynn Alderson, you're next.
Oh, hi. I just wanted to say something about the process, to say thank you to Angela and to Spinifex also, because the process was a good one. As a contributor, there was a lot of participation, there was a lot of consultation. And I think how you make the book is also important. And I just want to say thank you that my experience of it was a very good, participative, open, generous, and you were free also to say pretty much what you wanted to say. So thank you for that to Angela and to Spinifex.
Thank you. And I have to say that Angela was wonderful to work with on this book. That's not always the case, but it was a joy to work with you, Angela.
Can I do a quick response to several of
Please
these
do.
So yeah, it was really important for me to bring new voices because I could see on social media women having stuff to say, and it's very rare to find a platform where we can express those things. And I thought it would be really important to put us together, not only because we are silenced, but also because then we are building or trying to build a little community, if we can identify who we are. And so the process was that I connected with everybody individually. I took a lot of time because I really wanted to talk to women, and I think I talked to everybody except maybe for 3. And then I organized some how do you call them? Some Zoom sessions for whoever wanted to attend, so that we had a sense of what women were talking about, who we were, and so on. And that really helped me as well. And I just also want to say that when I started receiving the text, it felt like Christmas. Like every time I was like, oh my God. Like the amazing stories, the way they were told. And what I also wanted to say is that it was important for me to create a cultural product, as in not just theory. I wanted to bring all sorts of different voices, like women's stories, but poetry and art, because I'm an artist and because I think it reflects how we are. And I think also because we can relate differently to visual and to several kind of media. So that was one other thing I wanted to say.
Thank you. Now there is space for some other responses for the next 5 minutes, if you'd like to speak. Otherwise, we'll go to the thank yous, which we can spend the rest of the time doing if necessary. Anybody else want to put up their hand? Please do. And lots of nice comments coming through in the chat as well. Okay, here we are. Anna. Are you wanting to
Hi.
speak?
Hi, am I coming through? I don't know if it works.
Yes,
Oh,
you
okay,
are.
great. Hi, yeah, it's in the middle of the night here in California, but I just wanted to say that I'm so happy for this book. Like, it really was a whim in the sense that I learned about this through social media. I mean, I love this press, of course, and I trusted everything from them. So really excited to get my box from Australia, but I just, in terms of the book itself, I just didn't really realize how much I needed this. Like, I have been in radical feminism since the 90s, but like, I really, because of everything that's happened in the culture that is described at length through the different pieces, you know, I felt so divorced from my own radical feminist experience, and so I really I feel so much gratitude for the timing of it, because even in the week that I've been reading, I find myself in my life sharing the excitement again, and so it's really just a great, wonderful experience. And I wanted to say thank you to all of the women involved. Angela, thank you so much. Great book. I am excited for the future. I suppose that's what I'd want to say, just that this gives some excitement for the future, you know, and of all of the history of the women. And you know, as you I think you said from Monique Wittig, the idea that women that these movements are kind of the erasure that happens every time, and so it's just really nice. So anyway, thank you.
Thank you, Anna. And our next person is Vivian Morrigan. Over to you, Vivian.
Thank you. I just want to thank everybody who contributed to the book. I'm still getting through the book. I've been a bit slow reading lately, but I'm really enjoying it tremendously and devouring it. I've been so looking forward to this book as soon as I heard about it. I'm going to write a review of it, and I hope lots of other women will too, to spread the word, because what I find is this I'm a born lesbian is an argument that has been used against me so much, because I have my stories about a heterosexual past relating to men. In fact, I've been married twice. So I was a very slow learner. And the thing is, as soon as I heard radical feminist stories, as soon as I read Adrienne Rich's Compulsory Heterosexuality, I knew. She put it into the words that I had not been able to. And I want to keep spreading that word to women, because I was on a feminist group recently, well, a few years ago, writing some feminist critiques. And there was a woman there who is, you know, very well known lesbian feminist journalist, does very good critiques of lots of things, but she just floored me by telling me that she wasn't a lesbian, she was bisexual, and her lesbian lover was a lesbian because she had never had sex with a man. And I thought, oh, this is terrible. She's just completely denying so much of herself by saying she's not a lesbian, and also denying my lesbianism and what I have chosen. I do believe that you can choose, you can change your mind about things in your life, and the label is only a label, but it's a very important label to me now, and I'm not willing to let go of it, because I've got a bisexual past, but I have a lesbian presence and future, and I'm very definite about that, and very out about it. And I want to thank you for this book, because I think it will help a lot of women like me to say, well, here's a whole book full of women who've had my experience too. It's not just me alone. Thank you.
Thank you, Vivian. And Vivian,
and thank you, Angela.
On the committee of the Coalition of Activist Lesbians, also known as COAL. I'm going to pass over to Renata now, who's going to give her thanks to everyone.
Can I say something?
Yes.
Yep. Future, we are starting a social media presence called I Wish I Was a Lesbian, which you will be able to access on YouTube, podcast generally, and Substack. We might make an appearance on TikTok, we'll see. But the conversation, the idea is that we are plenty now and the conversation will carry on. So I'm going to leave you with that, but check out social media because there will be something.
Great, thanks. Renata.
Okay, well, thank you very much. That was a great launch. And my first thank you, of course, goes to Angela. It's been quite a rough ride. Angela, you have just done so much work, and it is not so simple to work with women across time zones and, you know, different emails, well, different problems how they send their pieces. So thank you very much for actually persisting. And then, of course, you had to cope with us editors at Spinifex, Pauline, Susan, and me, who sort of said, you can't say that and you can't say that and blah, blah, blah. And I'm really, really delighted with the book. I think it's great. And it has gone out in the world. And it has just gotten so many responses, some of which I'm really, really, really surprised at. Because, I mean, I have a story in the book. I'm one of those who, was heterosexual at the beginning of my life because I didn't know anything else. I grew up in Switzerland. I didn't know what a lesbian was until I was 17. And I needed to be in a supportive environment of lesbians and feminists in women's studies at UC Berkeley to even allow myself to fall in lust. It wasn't even love, it fall in lust with another woman. And I was so happy and been happy ever since. And I just calculated I became a lesbian at age 33. I am now, brace yourself, 81. That means I have been a lesbian for 48 years, which is considerably longer. Thank you. And, I mean, part of me just thinks like, please get on with it. When initially I wrote my piece for Julie Bindel and her book, and then she put it on a blog, and I didn't know what had hit me because I got all these horrible messages saying, you're not a lesbian, you're fake, you're bisexual. And it's wrong, it's really wrong. And I'm so happy that we now have this book that can be read by all these young and old women and can probably or hopefully spare a lot of the many years where they don't have to stay heterosexual and can leap into the wonderful existence of being a lesbian. So, all right. So that was my big, big thanks to Angela for all your work and also the wonderful book you put together. All the contributors, thank you to them. Then my next thank you is, of course, to Bronwyn Winter, an absolutely stalwart, radical lesbian feminist who would never have said she was anything but. So thank you very much, Bronwyn, for your great words and also how you live your life. Then we get to the Spinifex crew, but because make no, a book doesn't just happen like that. So Angela eventually sent the manuscript, but that was the beginning. So then we needed to work on it, and nothing would happen at Spinifex without Susan Hawthorne, who I always call Madam Spinifex, and who directs us all. But on this book in particular, I really want to also mention Pauline, who is not a lesbian. Anyway, Pauline did a lot of editing with Angela.
Never too late, Pauline.
Never too late. I don't actually know if she's here or if she's still working. We will pass it on to her. Never too late. So I really want to thank her. And that was actually good because occasionally Pauline said, that doesn't make sense. And we said, no, it does make sense. So, and then explained to Pauline. So it was like education through multiple steps. So that's our senior editor, Pauline Hopkins. Then I want to thank Danielle, who very patiently sent out the books to all the contributors, some of them in Siberia and Russia and whatever, and who keeps us all sort of in check. Then Rachel, who's here this evening. Without Rachel, we couldn't do anything because she's our web advisor and she's our Zoom advisor, and she basically advises us anything that we don't know. So thank you, Rachel. And she's also a great Eurovision fanatic. So she will now go and watch Eurovision. Make of that what you want. And then there is Caitlin, who is our social media manager, who has already put all of this on Instagram and on TikTok. But actually, no, that wasn't Caitlin. It was Angela, who put up a delightful video with a little witch that says, did you ever want to know what a lesbian is? And it's just delightful. And I had to post, oh, Spinifex is on TikTok. Because, we're oldies and so we're not on TikTok. But this is the beginning of a new age for Spinifex. We are now on TikTok. And needless to say, the cover of this wonderful book is rather gorgeous. Now Angela contributed her artistic flair to it and designed a lovely woman gazing at the stars, and Deb then put it into the cover that it is. And if you open the book, you will see that it is set out in a very readable, nice way by Helen, who does all our typesetting. And so I want to thank them as well. So that's my thanks. And if anybody else wants to say anything, I'm just so very, very happy this book exists. And I just so hope that many, many women will finally be able to say, yeah, I am a lesbian. I want to be a lesbian, and that's it. And that's the best thing, as I say in my piece. I mean, I rarely use the word choice because I think it's totally inappropriate and overused, but I definitely choose to be a lesbian, and I have not regretted it for one single day. So again, thank you, Angela, very much. Thank you, Bronwyn, very much. Thank you, Susan, and the whole Spinifex team. And thank you to everybody who was here this evening. It was actually really nice to look at all your names. So many familiar faces. And I should also say that on the 7th of June, Suzanne Bishop and Barbara Gut are putting on an event in German. So those of you who are here who speak German, like Doris, we will talk about our experiences of being lesbians, and that should be really very good. So it's a Zoom. So find, or Graugense is Suzanne's, name, Susanne Bishop Graugense. So I hope you see you there. Then Angela is also making a Zoom, I think, a special Zoom at WDI. We have a whole session to go to on when is that? The 30th of May, of June?
There will be 15 contributors will speak, so it's going to be like a big party, so do come.
And what is the date? Angela, what is the date?
30th of May, so that's a Saturday, 3 o'clock UK time.
Okay, all right. So we should all see you there, and we should continue this delightful conversation. Because look, let's just be frank. We have so many forces against us. We have men who say they have a penis, but they are lesbians. Then we have all the queer people who tell us that using the word lesbian is bad and we should just be queer. So we have to stick together. It doesn't matter if we think we were born that way or if we discovered the fact that we could be lesbians at age 30. We should all stick together and enjoy the great pleasures of life in being lesbians, and not just political lesbians. I mean, very sexual, creative lesbians doing stuff together with their partners. All right. Well, I think that's it for me. So, Susan.
Thank you, Renata. If you'd like to see other launches, we had one recently with a lesbian from Adelaide who had helped an Afghani woman who was living in Iran get to Australia, a refugee with 5 daughters. That's up on our YouTube channel. Next month, we'll be having a launch of Rebel Girls, which is another international anthology with lots of young women, teenagers, talking about the same issues, talking about trans, talking about sexuality, life, etc. And then later in the year, we have 2 other international anthologies in September and October. And so please do check out our YouTube channel and see what we're doing. And if you're not signed up yet to the Spinifex newsletter, please do. It's very, very simple, and then you'll get to hear all the information. So I can only say thank you once again. Angela, do you want to add any final word, or Bronwyn, any final word before we turn off the recording?
I want to say also, because I haven't said that, I found it was a very, very smooth journey working with you, and I really enjoyed it. And I learned a lot, so I hope there'll be more books. And I also want to acknowledge all the women who have started contributing, but for X or Y reason didn't come to the book. And I hope that in the future we will be able to work together as well, because there's more of us.
Thank you. Thanks a lot, everybody, for coming here, and we will turn off the recording now.